Do you want more time, clear vision, and have some future planning? Let's make 2023 the biggest jump yet. On August 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern, I'm opening 8 spots for one on one consulting. Are you a little bit nervous about this year? We've got your back. If you want to be removing yourself from the daily tasks, if you want a clear vision, and if you want to plan for multiple scenarios, this consulting package is for you. By the end of our 6 months together, you will have completed a clear process to remove things from your plate, examine what should be added, and know how and when to hire or outsource. We'll create a quarter by quarter plan that outlines the 3 biggest building blocks that you want to achieve in the next year, and we'll examine, plan, launch, and assess your money situation. We'll meet together for 6 months for a total of 12 sessions together. You'll get to come to my 2-day intensive here at my house in October with other private practice owners just like you. You'll get phone support, project management, and access to all of our communities here at Practice of the Practice. On top of all of that, you'll get discounts on support such as IT, copywriting, design, and social media. With everything included in this package, that would be over $2,000 a month. But 8 people are going to go back to our 2016 prices of $895 per month. If you want to grab one of these spots, make sure you're on the wait list. Head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/consulting deal because this sold out in 4 hours last January. You are not going to want to miss this. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/consulting deal to be on the wait list. Or head on over to that website on August 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern to grab your spot. When it's sold out, and we won't be offering this deal for a while. So jump on in and make 2023 the biggest jump yet. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 896. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice the Practice podcast. I am so excited for this series that we are doing that's going to be covering all the things we did in Level Up Week earlier this year. And this series is all about giving a spotlight to some amazing guests that we had. We wanted to make sure that you, if you missed it, were able to get this education. It's something that's been only available to our membership communities for the last 6 months or so. And now we are letting you have access to it if you didn't attend Level Up Week earlier in the year. Also, wanted to make sure that you know that on September 18th through September 21st, we have Level Up Week 2023. So make sure that you come to Level Up Week. We are going to have tons of amazing speakers, amazing panels on everything from starting your practice, starting a group practice, and growing a group practice, as well as things like passive income, and really just leveling up in a new way in your private practice. So make sure you're on that interest list. You'll get all those dates and all those registrations emailed to you over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. So welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to have you here today. This topic is one that just people have so many questions about. If you don't know who I am, I'm Joe Sanok. I'm the founder of Practice of the Practice, where we help therapists, coaches, and counselors to build thriving private practices. My podcast gets 70,000 listens or so a month, and I've done a bunch of business types of stuff, but I'm also a dad that has 2 awesome daughters, and this weekend we just played a lot because I was like, it's going to be busy with Level Up Week, and I wanted my brain to be clean and ready to go. And we have Valerie Harris with us also today, which we were just texting, and I want to hear before you dive in, Valerie, about just listening to the podcast in the camper. And I think that was just a fun thing that we both have spent time living in a camper. But Valerie is a trauma therapist who built a $1 million teaching practice in 3 years. She developed the intern development model, which provides strategies for developing student interns into competent, confident clinicians who become hungry, grateful hires who stay, which is really important. If you invest a whole bunch of time and money into people and then they leave, that doesn't really serve you that well. So 95% of her clinical staff were interns or new grads when she hired them. She's passionate about helping other practices raise value, revenue, and impact while pouring into the next generation of therapists. So we're going to hear from Valerie in just a second. Want to remind you of all the things we have going on. So today at 2:30 Eastern, I'm going to be presenting on 5 simple marketing techniques that every practice needs to master. And then tomorrow morning, first thing at 10 a.m. Eastern, Dr. Larry Beer and I are going to be talking about his mega practice. He had over 50 clinicians when he sold his practice. And so we're going to be talking about that multi-site, amazing, gigantic practice. He's one of our newest consultants with Practice to Practice. And then at 11 tomorrow, we'll be talking about multiple streams of income for therapists, e-courses, books, things like that. So make sure you have all of that in your calendar. All those things are over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. And if you love this training, would love for you to invite someone that you know for one of the other trainings this week. We do better in community, and we love to meet your friends and your colleagues as well. So Valerie, welcome to Level Up Week. Seriously, like we get so many requests for replays of you doing this. It's like, I think we have 147 people registered for this webinar today. It's insane. So gonna let you just kick it off.
First things first, would love to connect with all of you. If you want to friend me, social media, tag, share, feel free to ask me questions if things got missed or get clarification on things. Any of that would be absolutely fine with me. And so a little bit about me. I do currently own 4 companies. Obviously, I don't run them all equally, but I do have a group practice. I also just started a consulting and educational company called Trauma Care Pro. And my very first business was a photography business way back when. So I don't work that one very actively, but I found that it was a form of self-care, and I am utilizing that more with professionals, which I love. And then I do have a real estate holding company because I do own 2 commercial properties. Benefits of having a teaching practice, clearly. And so I'm a trauma therapist. I manage a team. I think we're around 19, but it ebbs and flows. So the exact count may not be right. I'm also an approved clinical supervisor. I like to say that I'm nationally published as a photographer because I am, and I have self-taught. So that's kind of a big deal. I'm really nerdy, love neuroscience, love the brain, love to challenge the church and religion, also follow Jesus. And I really love to disrupt the industry when it comes to new grads and the value that they bring. If you care, there's my Enneagram and my Myers-Briggs. I care about those things. I am neurospicy, and I am very unashamed of that. And I love to travel. So if anybody needs a travel buddy, I'm your girl. So a little about my story way back in the beginning. So early on, 2014, I was in private practice. As I said, I listened to Joe. And one of the things that I really appreciated about you, Joe, is that you shared your revenue. And I like it when people show receipts because I think it adds value and it adds transparency and authenticity. And I was like, okay, and you can see that you can do it. I think that was the other thing, is I was able to see like this is doable. So I like to show up in that same way. So I was subleasing a space on and off for quite some time. I was about to get kicked out of my space and have no space at all. And finally ended up begging the building owner to build out a garage. So I had a 2-car garage that was a big mega office. Got trained in lots of trauma modalities, but I was seeing 8 to 10 clients a day. So this little snapshot here is from my simple practice in 2016. That was 1 week. And that was just 1 week of multiple weeks for many, many years of what my calendar looked like. My first year of private practice, my revenue was $67,000. Then it went to $169,000. Then it went to $177,000. Then it went to $194,000. So for those who are like, I can make everything I need to make in private practice, I guess it depends on what your limit is. But at the end of the day, that's what it took. That's what I was having to see that many clients to bring that kind of revenue. And the pay was not bad. I'm mostly private pay. I think at that time I was on 2 panels. The demand was increasing nonstop, and clients were staying much, much longer than I anticipated, which was part of why I ended up getting trained in all these trauma modalities with hopes of being able to move clients in a pace and actually get them better, because I felt like, at that point, I was probably trying to do a lot of top down work instead of bottom up. And so I realized really quickly that they weren't getting the traction that they needed. And so I sought out a ton of trauma training. What I did know and what I was really clear on is that burnout was coming, and it was approaching quickly. And I knew I could not do this for another several years. So I started to look at my different options. I thought, okay, naturally, I think group practice is the next thing to do. Maybe I could partner with someone. I could keep raising rates. I could pull off the 2 insurance panels, hire some more admin support to remove those duties. And my solution was anything but a group practice. The reason being is I thought, it's going to be so much work. I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I'd heard that on Joe's podcast. I'd heard all the group practicey things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already working so much. I don't know that I could do that. I'm really picky and didn't think I could partner with someone because of vision alignment. I did keep raising rates, and it was not stopping the influx. I did pull off insurance panels. None of that helped. And I did hire admin support, and I was still working way too much. I will say, in addition to that, another thing that really influenced my decision is I did not have anywhere to refer people. So I was really struggling because those who were getting really good levels of trauma support and they felt like they were being helped, I couldn't even ethically pare back my caseload because I didn't have anywhere that I could send them. I had started to offer services that were unmatched in hopes of building a practice, and I did for myself, but then I found that it also made it really hard to refer to other people because they weren't going to be getting some of those same services. I also offer neurofeedback, so that's one of those services that I can't necessarily just refer someone to in the community. So I started brain mapping, trying to figure out what I needed to do and what the best way to do that would be. In the past, I was a teacher in a college, and I absolutely loved teaching. I loved it. I loved absolutely everything about it, except for grading papers. That just felt arduous, and it felt like too much. I honestly didn't know that I could employ people because I really didn't know what it took to do that. And I had no idea about being an employer, or I just felt like it was a little too risky for me at that moment. But what I did know is I had been an intern before. And so I thought about if I could just replicate what I'm doing with another body, like a body double almost, in some capacity, then this will work. It's like the principle of multiplication. So I started thinking about my own internship and the things I liked about it and the things I didn't. And I also remembered graduating from school with a master's degree and working at a huge treatment center in Nashville and being paid $14 an hour, and how stressed I was and how awful that was, and how explaining that to my husband was very difficult. And that got me thinking, wait a minute, maybe there's a possibility that by doing this, I could disrupt the industry narrative that people don't have value unless they have a license. Right? Because oftentimes we even though it does add value that you have a license, there are a lot of people out there that don't feel they have value until they have the license. And I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. So I thought about if I can just train them well enough that it makes up for experience, and treat them well so they'll stay. And I thought, having an intern for 12 months, it's like a 12-month job interview. So, I mean, you've got to know by then if you're going to do this and if it's going to work or not. So you see, I attached below there my original business plan that I did of mind mapping, and I did it on my back porch, and I still have it. And what I circled here was I put in my projections that I wanted to hit 7 figures in 5 years. And we actually hit 7 figures in 3 years. So that was like, I just caught that the other day when I was doing that. I was like, oh my gosh. So my calculations were to do it in 5 years. And beat that and didn't even realize I had even made that calculation. I will also say this is my very first SWOT analysis that I did. And as you can see here, one of the threats I put was growing too quickly. And we also did that, but that's for another day and another talk. But I don't know. It's one of those things where you look back and you're like, wow, I really did know some things. And I just didn't listen to that part of what I knew. So there's that. It's a little tidbit for y'all. Go back and reflect on how you get there each step of that way so you don't miss those little things. So I'll talk first about how interns raise value. These are just a list of some of the qualities of things that interns had that are now interns and or master's level. I will use those interchangeably. So we have someone that has a bachelor's in advertising. We have actually, I think, 2 published poets, a combat veteran, an EMT, someone who is bilingual, people with experience in multiple other mental health. Actually, we have people from community mental health too, as well as psych hospital and child protective services and the corrections officer, which all of those things come in handy quite a bit when you are treating clients and considering policies and procedures and things. I have artists. I attached some of the artwork of one of my clinicians. She was the second intern I ever had, and she is like a tremendous artist. And I have badass clinicians, and they said it themselves. So you're looking at a text message that one of my interns at the time sent to me when we were moving out of that first office, because we'd bought a commercial building. And so she had offered to carry boxes. And I said, no, I have scrappy boys who can do that with muscles. And she was like, well, we thought we'd offer. And then she surprised and said, hey, guess what? Your clinicians are badass and there are no boxes in sight. So I mean, you're going to get value. It's not just a student. You're getting people with life experience. You're getting people with prior careers. You're getting people with visions. You're getting people who also want to be part of a legacy and have something to add to your vision that will make it better than you even anticipated.
And Valerie, we're having some questions come in, and
sure.
you can just say I'll cover that later if it's later. But the first one is, did you place your practice in a location close to a college to get interns interested?
No, it was already there.
Okay.
We already have one nearby, but I will say that only about half of our interns come from that. The other half come from a lot of other universities that are not close by.
And then the next one is, do you pay your interns hourly or fee split? I have a first-time practicum student starting in May who hopes to continue with my practice until full licensure next year. I'm starting her unpaid until she begins to bring in income. She will begin observation only, then transition to see her own clients under my supervision.
I would say check with the school, make sure that's allowed. Some schools do not allow for paid internships, and then some will allow for it. In the beginning, we did not do that because they were getting supervision that was being covered for them. They were also getting access to training and different things like that were value adds. As we've gone along and we've got more resources where we can do that. And I want to create a little more competition in that, because we get a lot of applicants. So I want to make sure we're getting the best of the best. And I'll tell you a little trick. So now we do offer a stipend and it's just a percentage based on how many clients they see. So it'll be a percentage of the revenue that they bring in. But I will tell you this, since I've began offering that, those who have been the best fit for my practice have never once asked what the pay is. They don't even know. Like, the ones that's their first question, they're probably not going to be the right fit. So I would be willing to bet the ones I have now, they've just started seeing clients and they're probably forgetting that they're going to get paid, because it's not even like they've already known that they wanted to be in our practice. And ultimately, I think that's what you want.
And we'll do one more question, then we'll let you go through some more slides because they're just flooding in. So what did you have to do to make it a teaching practice? Was there special paperwork, as I'm already a group practice and have interns regularly?
Oh, yeah, that'll come. That's coming in some other slides.
All right, we'll let you go through the slides. I think maybe we'll do some more of the Q&A at the end, just because you may hit on a lot of these questions before we get there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Take it over.
Yes. So let's talk about impact. This is currently what our roster looks like. We have 6 EMDR clinicians. We have 3 in process of certification. 95% of them were interns or new grads, 4 brain spotting clinicians, 3 lens neurofeedback clinicians, 6 safe and sound protocol clinicians, 4 trauma-informed hypnosis clinicians, 85% were trained as interns. In this group, we only have, I want to say, of like the EMDR clinicians, I think 4 of them are licensed. Of the brain spotting clinicians, 2 of them are licensed. Of the neurofeedback, 2 of them are licensed. The safe and sound protocol, 3 of 6 are licensed. And trauma-informed hypnosis, 1 of 4 is licensed. So these are not trainings that came as a result of being licensed and having years of experience. These are hungry clinicians that wanted to level up their game, and they really wanted to invest in themselves. And they also wanted to get creative and figure out ways to make themselves marketable. So imagine creating a welfare system within your own practice instead of, relying on the government. The reason I say that is because in community mental health, a lot of times they are so they're so burnout, and they're there to be a resource. And oftentimes we can forget that even in a group practice, a private practice, you can actually just create your own system and be a resource to those in need. And you can raise your impact in the community by just doing it in a different way and just kind of recreating the system in a way that works and aligns with your values. So let's talk revenue. Interns bring an average of $8,000 to $15,000 annually. They start with their practicum, and then they go into internship 1 and then internship 2. I saw a 368% increase in my practice just in the first year when I brought interns on. And I can't make that up. The highest month of revenue prior to any interns was $22,000. The highest month of revenue after starting with interns and new grads. Obviously, it wasn't like I had 5 interns and had 110 grand that month. More so like since I've started doing this with my practice, our highest month of revenue was $110,000. So I know that this works. And I think when we hit that was sometime last year. And I would say probably like over 50% of our people were not licensed yet. We've added 1 or 2 more that are licensed, but when that happened, we still had more unlicensed people than licensed, if that tells you anything.
Going in network with insurance can be tough. I know when I took insurance, there were long wait times and it was so confusing. Filing all the right paperwork is time consuming and tedious. And even after you're done, it can take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access enhanced reimbursement rates with major payers. They also handle all of the paperwork from eligibility checks to claims submissions and guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure, regardless of where you're working from. It's amazing to know that you can be fully online. Learn more about building a thriving practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Joe. That's hello, ALMA.com/Joe to get started.
So this is where I'll get into some step-by-step on some ways that we can jumpstart your teaching practice, things that you want to be thinking of and be considerate of as you move through this. And this will answer some of the questions. So step 1, you want to prime your clients and your practice. And so language and intention matters rather than saying things like, well, we have an intern that needs to sit and observe, because a lot of times clients don't know what an intern is. They may think that that person is a high school student. They may, even if you say college, they don't necessarily understand that. So you want to value that whole process and set that up as a teaching practice. And that's where, even if you already have a group practice and you have interns, I would consider looking at your processes, and looking at your copy on your website. Do you structure the model of your business in that way? Do you talk about that? I've put a little snippet here from our website where we actually talk about our model of care is a model of collaboration. And then we talk about what is a master's level graduate, student intern. What is it that they're doing? What kind of education have they had up to that point? Why do we offer them? For instance, we have on here that we offer master level graduate students and master level counselors because they can offer a high quality of trauma-informed service at a sharply discounted rate. They are able to offer a lot of services to meet the needs of the community at a rate that would be more affordable and more beneficial when they do it in groups, and they can offer groups. Let's see here. I can't read it because it's so small. Oh, also just talking about basically that there's plenty of trauma to go around and there's a high need for it. So that's another reason that we do that. Paperwork, we have it set up in our informed consent. So we have a practice level informed consent. It talks very specifically about being a teaching practice and what that means and what it doesn't mean. So it states things like, at times you might be asked if you are open to observation. And if you're open to allowing someone to observe you, here are the parameters to that. Here are the boundaries around that. If you're open to observing one session, but the next one you don't want someone to observe, you're freely within your capacity to do that. And there's going to be no consequence to your care. It's to let them know that this is an ebb and flow. It's a case by case, session by session process. And we also include in there that there are times that clients will ask to, or not clients, students will be asking to video record sessions, just so that they are not surprised, because again, that would be a good way to provide trauma-informed care. We don't want them to be surprised by anything in our processes. So we want to disclose all that on the front end and also explain why we do those things. Another thing around that is considering where your clients are in their process and considering their presenting issues. So for instance, we have a really diverse population of clients. We get a lot of veterans, combat veterans, retired veterans that have avoidant attachments. They are by and large completely open to observation. I mean, think about an avoidantly attached person. They're like, oh, this is awesome. I can just shoot the shit with someone and stay further from my issues. And some of them make it fun. Like, they love the interns because they want to question them. And so it makes it really easy to get an observation session in with them. And that's really important. But there comes a point at which it may not be good for the client to continue having those interns in there if it's distracting them from processing, or if they're even less likely to be vulnerable because they're avoidantly attached. So on the one hand, it benefits the model, but on the other hand, there comes a point where it's no longer benefiting the client potentially. And so you really have to weigh both of those out at different times. With anxiously attached people, they are more likely to be a little bit like shy to the observation process. They are willing and can be willing, but they tend to prefer that when that person's observing the first time, that they just be in the room and not really speak. And so it really looks different client to client, counselor to counselor. And so I would say really be mindful of those things. You can add to your intake form if they're open to an observation. We ask our clients on intake. We make that part of the intake process to kind of gauge that, see where they're at with that. Clients are pretty good about knowing what they want or need. And they really generally appreciate you just explaining the process and why we're asking and letting them know that they can change their mind at any point. So the next step would be finding sources for interns. If you've got a local university, reach out to them. Chances are your local university has career fairs. I highly recommend, if you don't know anyone in the counseling department at that local university, even getting in a career fair would be really helpful. Facebook groups, local Facebook groups for counseling. Just say, hey, where are you getting interns? Anyone who has interns, where are they coming from? My practice is going to be taking students. Can you, even just advertising there. Sometimes interns are already in that group and can tell cohorts below them who are coming up. But the main thing is, if you can find out universities, once you've had a intern, they will put you on their list and it will be easier to get more interns. If you're really struggling, I would go to your local schools, high schools, middle schools, even elementary schools, because they all have a counseling office and most of them also have to have interns. And because student or school counselors have to go through an internship as well. And so they may be up to speed on universities that are within reach, or even online universities who have sent interns in that direction. So all of those are really good places to start, to at least get a list of where your possible places to get them are. But I promise you, you only need to hit one or two of those. And once you get a pipeline, it will just explode and keep coming. I promise. We've had people from, I don't even know how many universities, a lot, like universities I've never even heard of. Ones where you get an email and you're like, is that really a university? And I still don't even know how they found us. I really have no idea. I will say this is a helpful thing. If you are near a military town, because we do happen to be near a military post, there is a Facebook group online for mental health professionals who are in the military, like spouses. You could also advertise in there that you're going to be taking students. And it would actually really do them a service as well, because unfortunately, since we do not have an interstate compact yet, it makes it really difficult sometimes for spouses of the military to get connected locally when they're moving and different things like that. So sometimes that can help bridge that time for them and help them find a site sooner. Finding the right fit. This comes down to screening questions before the actual interview. Have an interview process in place. I recommend having 2 people interviewed. So you be the final interview, have someone else interview first, and have a feedback form, and consider your team culture. And once you have an intern, get feedback from your team on that intern. I have listed over here a screening guide that I have available for free. I can get the link to y'all. And it goes over why we screen, and it gives you some sample questions that you can use. And
Valerie,
then,
why don't we have you send that link to us, and we'll put that in the daily digest for tomorrow morning when that comes out.
okay, that works.
Perfect.
The last part is the intern development model. This is just a model that I created to help onboard, develop, and retain these interns and get them ready to be confident, hungry, happy employees who are really plugged into your company and the vision, and also they're ready to run with the rest of you. So they're going to be on the same level as the rest of your clinicians. And I've got it broken down here. So the first part is you're sowing those seeds. It's observation, observation, observation. Because we do a lot of trauma work, we don't want people in the room with someone who has an extensive amount of pain and not having that student also be co-regulated. So having another therapist in the room also helps to co-regulate that experience for that student, so that it's not an overwhelming traumatic one. And so you also want to see what they're going to do when they get around people in pain. And I tell you, they crack knuckles, they pick their fingernails, they click pins, all these little anxious behaviors come out. And if you were to put them along with the client and that stuff comes out, and then that client doesn't come back, that's going to hurt their soul, and it's going to pull them down. And so you want to catch those things quick, and you want to also allow them to see a variety of different clinicians and different client presentations, because you got to remember, up to this point, most of them have just done peer sessions with students. So you really want them to have a real-time view of how this works, and in a way of seeing it work in different ways with different people, so that they can start looking at what works best for them, or what they feel like might be a better fit for them clinically. The next step is watering seeds. So about 2 weeks into observation, we start having them do the session note for the session that they observe. We also have the therapist do the note, and the student can ask to see the therapist note, but it helps us to see how well attuned they are to what's happening. It also helps us catch things like, are they overly focused on facts, which they normally are, rather than the narrative and what the meaning of what's happening. So that's a good time to start catching that. And it starts allowing them to see a different way of doing notes with a more experienced clinician, so that they can start focusing on the clinical documentation early, before they're actually responsible for clinical care. Because that tends to be something that, offering both of those at the same time when they're new, it just tends to be disastrous in my experience. So it gives them a good time to work on that before they're actually responsible for clinical care. The taking root piece, that's where we're really looking at their marketing. We have forms to help them create their bio. We have supervision assessments to figure out kind of what their best learning style is. We're kind of really helping them start to look at their counselor identity and where they feel like they're drawn, what their strengths are, things of that sort. And then in full bloom, that's when we give them their first set of clients. So they're probably going to get like maybe up to 6 or 8. And we're going to watch really closely. We're going to look at documentation. We're going to look at how it's their own mental health doing. Are things slipping in any way? Do they seem activated? Are they pacing well? Are they rushing therapy? Are they well attuned? And then ultimately, we're going to end up in a pruning process, because such is life. We all have to prune a little bit. And we're going to look at whatever those problematic things are, or those areas of growth. And we're going to slow things down a little bit and dig back in and see what we need to do to support them in that. And then finally, we get into sustaining and synthesizing. And this is where their caseload generally grows to about 15, sometimes 20. And so for that last semester of internship, they're usually sitting around 15 or 20, which then makes it much easier to hire them and just shift them over into employment. And most of their clients will stay and accept the rate increase. So that is the end. I just wanted to say, as the result of that, you're looking at the commercial properties that we now own, and these two pretty faces in the middle. This is my very first intern on the left, who's now an assistant clinical director, and my second intern on the right, who is my clinical development coordinator. And so, I mean, it works, and I would do it all over again. And I'm obviously passionate about it. So fire away all the questions.
Oh man, Valerie, I love this. I just texted you actually, like, we should do a half-day workshop on this, because we just can't do it in an hour. So I'm going to just say that publicly, that I just texted you to figure out a half-day workshop or something, because there's just so much to pack in. All right. And I know that you want to dive into all that Valerie can offer us. So I just want to first tell you, before we do that, about Group Practice Boss. Group Practice Boss is where we bring in people like Valerie to talk about group practice, to talk about leveling up, to be in small groups together, and to support each other. So many of you are either already group practice owners, you're aspiring group practice owners, and I'm just wondering if you're ready to grow your group practice. And if you want more support, training, and perspective to grow even more, right now, Group Practice Boss cohort is open, and it's for people with an established group practice who want to grow a thriving group practice that matches their values. So some of the things that we cover is every month we have different themes we talk about. So April is going to be all around hiring. It's hiring month. So we have weekly webinars that me and the other consultants lead. We're going to be discussing managing people, creating a positive workplace environment. How do you increase retention of clients, money management, all those things that go into managing, running, and enjoying a group practice. So right now, the cohort has opened up over at practiceofthepractice.com/GPB door. You can sign up for Group Practice Boss. Within it, we have small groups. We have accountability partners every single month. We have monthly Ask the Experts, where we bring in people that we can really dive in deep with. We have live trainings with myself and our other consultants. We have over 30 courses that you can go through about different phases, and you get to access our entire online community. And that's all for $149 a month. So less than the cost of 2 counseling sessions for all of that support. In the first 6 months, we onboard you. We make sure that you have access to all the things that we're going to be doing throughout that month. In month 2, we really help you solidify your plan for growing your group practice and determine what 1 or 2 courses make the most sense for you, attending live events, going to our welcome party, things like that. And then months 3 through 6, really working on your plan, getting support and Q&A and small groups, and determining the level of growth you want. When I help people look at ROI, if you just had 2 new clinicians that had 15 sessions a week at 125 times 4 weeks, we'd be at about 15 grand a month when you're full. So it's a pretty easy trade when you look at 15 grand a month compared to 150 a month for that level of support. So we've helped over 300 therapists to start their group practices and to grow them. We've worked with over 2,000 private practice owners. We've won a whole bunch of awards. And when we look at our folks that have been working with us, we can track back directly $200 million in sales. So we've done this work. We have the support for you. And if you're ready, we would love to have you join us. We have enough people applying at every phase of private practice that we don't need to squeeze you into anything. But if you're a group practice owner and you're thinking, I'm ready to level up, I just want to grow in a different way, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/GPB door. And I'm going to actually skip the circle community so that we have time for the 17 questions we already have for Valerie. You are going to get all sorts of bonuses, but again, you can look at the recording and see that in the emails about our bonuses. All right. Well, let's dive in to Valerie. So let's start with this first question. What considerations are there with insurance companies and their reimbursement for student interns?
I would say you would have to look at the individual contracts. We do not take insurance other than we do work with Veterans Community Care. But aside from that, majority of all of our people are self-pay. And for instance, I do know that TRICARE in our area is an absolute no-go. You cannot have a student. And I do know that there are a lot of other insurance companies in different areas that are open to supervisory billing. So I think it's dependent on the insurance, but I also think I'm learning it's dependent on the area. So
awesome. How did you start the process of advertising to colleges and interns? I know you talked a little bit about career fairs. Any other things you didn't cover?
I actually had an intern cold reach out to me, is how that started. It was already in my head of thinking about it. And then she reached out to me. She's now my assistant clinical director. And so I will say that it's really a lot easier than it feels. If you just identify the person who's in charge of their placement, counseling placements, they're looking for sites all the time. They don't tend to have enough of them, but they also really want to give students a lot of diversity and a lot of opportunities to find things that are best fit for them. But they're also often dealing with some really crappy sites that they have to remove from their list that they didn't know was bad until they got an intern there. So I've never had a university yet that was not ready to add one more site.
It's amazing how low the standards are. I was an intern supervisor at the community college for master's level social workers and counselors. And just the fact that I returned emails and voicemails, they were like, "You're amazing." I'm like, literally, that's all it takes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you W-2 or 1099 model?
Oh, W-2 all the way.
All right. Did you train them or support their training? Are there clinical interns or master's level interns? Talk a little bit more about that training.
No, well, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you mean in training, but
I think they might be referring to like the EMDR training, brain spotting, like
oh,
all that
okay.
stuff.
No, actually, one of our screening questions is kind of priming them in that direction by asking them if you were to invest personally in a trauma level training, which one would you want to personally invest in? I also tell them from the get-go that if they have a full caseload and things are going well, it's a really hard sell for me not to hire them. And most of them want a job. And that's one of the interview questions that we ask on the first interview is if they would be willing to be ready for employment with us afterwards. So we really model ourselves at bringing people on that we would consider hiring and using that time to develop them and make sure that they really can be hired and that it's going to be a good fit. I have had some interns that were really close to the end of their internship, and I knew that I was going to hire them. And we did do an educational agreement where they signed to work for so many months, and the practice gave them a stipend that they could use towards a training.
Okay. How many interns do you typically onboard at once in a cohort?
So the most I ever had when there was three of us in the practice and I was still seeing like a large amount of clients. I had five that were all in the same cohort. I felt like that was a little bit of a lot. So what I prefer to do is have no more than three per cohort and just stagger them. So if we've got some that start in the spring, I like to have no more than three, and then maybe have another three that may start in summer and then another three. So they're staggered. I feel like that works better for the clients, works better for our office spacing, works better for our staff. And it's just, I think they all get their needs met more effectively.
Were the clients who worked with clients all self-pay? Yeah, you mentioned that they're all self-pay except for the other one. Would you be willing to share your paperwork with the intern informed consent?
So I actually offer an intern bundle of paperwork that has an intern guide. It also has the informed consent, supervision survey, all sorts of stuff. So that is something that I offer, but I can offer a discount for this group where you
Sweet.
could get,
Yeah, if you don't mind just sending that to Jen to put in the daily digest tomorrow, then it'll go to everyone that has registered for this. So that would be perfect. Any sort of discounts, or if you want to give any giveaways away,
yes.
we're always always looking for things to give away this week. Sweet. Do you have a contract with the VA, or are the veterans self-pay also?
No, we do have a community care contract. Yes.
Cool. We are a very small practice, and without a full-time office manager, is it recommended or acceptable to use interns for administrative duties like billing, scheduling, in addition to providing therapy?
Yeah, I think that's okay. I'll be honest, I'm really particular about billing. So I even have a licensed professional counselor that does my billing who just doesn't see clients anymore. And I knew her from grad school. I'm really particular about billing. Just because I've heard a lot of horror stories. I do, however, think that it can be really vital for interns to have some experience on the intake side of things and the scheduling piece. I think that it's almost like in a hospital where you have a nurse, but before the nurse was a nurse, they were like a certified nurse assistant. They tend to have a better understanding of some of those other things. So I really feel like it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't use them. I would be careful and make sure that they don't feel like they're just doing it I would make sure that it's centered on teaching and growing them and not just filling a need. It can be both, but just make sure it's balanced.
Yeah. How do you price your different levels of services?
So our interns started at $45. And the reason I did that is because it was comparable to a copay for an insurance panel in our area. We're now up to $65. And that's just because of demand. They're just filling up really quickly. And so from that to master's level is 95. So it's just an increase that we give them. We give them a rate increase quite a bit in advance. And then we allow each person who's staying on as an employee to bring 2 pro bonos with them. And when they bring the pro bono, that person continues to pay the intern rate, because there are other times when I ask people to see a client for pro bono, and on those pro bonos, the business takes a hit.
Mm. Can you share your website?
Yes, it's traumatherapytn.com.
All right. What is the recommended ratio of interns to clinical supervisors if the credentialed supervisor also sees clients?
Let's see. So we have a site supervisor right now, but in the beginning it was me. And I would say five was the limit for me, for sure. So I would prefer like 4 to 5 max.
Okay. How'd you put together the contracts? Do you recommend having a lawyer look at them?
I'm not sure what you mean by contracts. I don't
Like the contracts, I'm guessing the contracts like with the interns or contracts with
like an educational agreement.
maybe that. I'm not sure. And Alicia, if you want to clarify, happy to, if it's for the interns or if it's for like another business or something but I'm guessing it's for the interns.
Yeah, I don't have any contracts with interns. We just have, well, I mean, there's the supervision, but that's happens when they're postdoc. Usually the school puts all that together.
Okay. Do you use a standard form letter to reach out to the colleges and universities for interns?
No. I only had one reach out, or I only reached out to one. And other than that, I've never had to reach out to one. They just keep, I'm telling you, once they know you have interns, like the pipeline, it widens up. It's like a flood.
Yeah. Kind of like the questions that are coming in. How do you maintain client stability when internships end? We have had clients who declined to have therapy with an intern because they didn't want to start over if or when the intern leaves.
Yes, I think that's a good point. I will say that we really prime that pump and let them know that we're looking to hire people. There definitely have been times where we've had a different situation. And if those, but I would say more or less most clients don't feel that way. Some do, and I think we just have to honor that. Another way that we can work around that is we do a lot of co-treating. And so what we might also offer that person, if they actually need the discounted session rate, is we might offer starting them with someone that's on staff, but then also doing like every other session with the intern, because then it could keep their overall costs lower, but it would have someone else who was in charge of their care, who knew everything that was going on, who wasn't at risk of leaving, so to speak.
Awesome. We're going to do our very best to get through the next 13 new messages in the next 5 minutes. But if we don't get to your question, we're going to try to do lots more with Valerie. She's been so gracious with practice of the practice. And obviously, we've hit quite a nerve in regards to what people want to hear. So we're going to keep brainstorming what we can offer all of you. But the next question is, many of the universities around me have interns around from August to December and then mid-January to May. Is that similar for you? Wondering how many months they actually end up seeing clients? And are you paying another clinician to supervise them or doing it yourself? Wondering about the costs involved.
So I used to see them all myself. So I would say in the beginning, if you need to do it yourself, just do it yourself. Because it's cheaper, obviously. But I also am really big about not having anyone do something I haven't already done, because I really want to know the ins and outs of every position in my company to know what it takes and to know what I need in that position. So I would start that way anyway. I do pay someone now, but it's limited. So it's how many ever hours he has a week to work with them. And then I'll do an hour here and there so that they get a different supervisory experience as well. And yes, it's normally till December, but most universities have something where you can sign a consent saying that that they won't be under supervision at the university, so that they can continue to see their clients through summer break and also through Christmas.
Perfect. Question is Group Practice Boss only for those with existing groups or also for those shifting to groups? So for your question, Stacy, for our membership communities, Next Level Practice is aimed at people that are in solo practice and planning to stay in solo practice or are growing their solo practice. Next, we have Group Practice Launch, which is specifically for people going from solo to their first hire, if you've either completed that or already have hired. So I know like Ashley has gone through Group Practice Launch, but she's making her first hire in just a little bit. So she's allowed to go into Group Practice Boss. She doesn't need to go back through Group Practice Launch. So if you're moving from solo to group, I would say Group Practice Launch, that cohort is open right now. That's a 6-month program to walk you through all of that. And you can read more about that over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. You'll see Group Practice Launch right at the bottom there under our membership communities. That, based on that little bit that you said, would probably be the best community for you. And then after that, you can join Group Practice Boss. Oh, Dana already answered it. Should have scrolled down. Do you offer office space for everyone in person?
Everyone in person. Well, we have sessions virtually and in person, but no one has their own office in our building. We all share.
Awesome. I love that. How many hours a week do you work now versus when you were in solo practice?
So I'm at home today in my home office. I go into the office 2 to 3 times a week. One day, like Tuesdays, I'll see about 5 clients and have supervision with my master's level people. And the rest, like that's the only, other than a meeting on Friday and supervision, group supervision on every other Friday. Other than that, I'm just working on the business. So, and projects, passion projects.
Love it. Just there was a couple more questions about this recording. So the daily digest will come out every morning. So Tuesday morning, we'll have all of the recordings from Monday, and Wednesday morning, we'll have all of Tuesday, and so on. It will also have links for all of the different webinars going on that day, as well as the prize winners. So we actually had 1,300 people sign up for Level Up Week. Insane. That is so much bigger than any of our other events. You all are amazing. So all those prizes and everything will be in tomorrow's thing, as well. If things come up like how Valerie said, oh, I'll give a discount for this package, we'll be putting that in as well. So just look for that tomorrow morning as well. Looks like a lot of the other questions that came in you've already answered at this point, but just a little more clarification on the percentage that you pay. So if you're charging, say, $45 for those new interns, like what are they then getting out of that financially?
It's going to be determined on the annual budgets. Like we started out with, I think the current is what I'm going to start out with is like 5%, and then see how we can go and raise that as we go, as we're able to.
All right. Wow. We did it. So thank you so much for hanging out with Valerie and myself today. This was amazing. I'm sure I'll see you in other Level Up Week events. Go kill it. And Valerie, thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and going through this training that we did earlier this year with Level Up Week. Again, if you want to register or be on the interest list to make sure that you get all the information for Level Up Week, which is coming up and kicking off on September 18th, 2023, make sure you head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/level up, and you can register for whichever ones of those particular trainings that you want to come to. Also, we could not do this show without our amazing sponsors. Today's sponsor is Alma, and Alma has the most amazing insurance program where you can see clients in your state of licensure regardless of where you're working from. It's why Alma, they make it easy and financially rewarding for you to accept insurance. You can learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Joe. Again, that's helloalma.com/Joe to get started. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.